So if you watched my previous video, you'll know that I bought some high-end computer parts from an auction site. One of those computer parts was the Stream Deck Plus. And this was the one thing that I really wanted to work. So I purchased it for about £55, and these things go for £260, £270 on the Elgato website. Everything looked absolutely glorious out of the box. So let me show you this. This was actually an Amazon return. Somebody returned this, and I was hoping that they returned it for the reason, hey, they didn't want it, there was an issue with it, I don't know, they didn't work for their system, so that was the hope. But then there's always the real side of this, and this is a broken device. And for those of you that did watch the video, you'll know that although this looks absolutely pristine, even has the sticky label at the bottom, but the screen is actually broken. And I'll show you what I mean by broken. So I'm just going to move that to the side. So let's plug this in and see what the issue was. So you get the Elgato logo as expected, but then you get this. And it looks like there are issues with the pixels. You know, there's an LCD screen back there. The brightness controls work on here. The slide action works. All the individual buttons also work. So I've got a functioning Stream Deck, right? So what I'm going to do today, because I couldn't find any videos of anyone tearing these apart and trying to fix them. So what I wanted to do is look and see if it's possible to update the colours first of all, and the firmware to make it show. Okay, so it might have been some dead pixels that weren't showing originally. So that is the plan. So let's see, first of all, if we can make this work by changing the colours. So firstly, I'm going to do a software update on this thing just to see if that actually fixes it. And there is a software update due. So just going to run that update now. I wasn't expecting this to fix it all, but as you can see, it is still broken. There are some colours, like you can still see the blue comes through quite nicely, but yeah, it's just obviously it is not working here. So the idea behind the test is to pull some different icons on here and see if there are certain colours that work. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to drag a new action onto the Stream Deck Plus, and we're going to see if we can change the colour of that to make it show. There we go, so that's the blue colour. I'm going to copy that action over and try with different colours. So we know that blue isn't working, although it does come through slightly, so let's try a grey colour. So grey is obviously having a few issues there. Let's check orange. So orange again isn't working very well. Let's see if there's any other colours. Let's have a look at green. Let's try green. Green's a little bit better, but as you can see, all these colours, they're just not working and they're not presenting in the way that they should be. As you can see, they're just faded and you've got the glitching effect. But yeah, blue does seem to be a little bit less bad, but yeah, it's on to the next step, I think. Let's take this thing apart. I've never done this before. I don't know exactly how to take this thing apart, but we're going to give it a try. I'm going to start with taking the stand off and see where we go from there. There's just 2 Phillips screws at the bottom, so I'm just going to remove those. And hoping that once we've got this off, we can actually see that there's more screws underneath. But like I said, I don't know how to take this thing apart, so we're going step by step and just see where we go. So that is the base off of the Stream Deck Plus, and unfortunately it's looking like, yeah, those screws are hidden. So first port of call is I'm going to look under these rubber grommets, because normally that's where people hide them, just to see if it's lingering under these things. Yeah, okay, so it's not looking like it's under the grommets. So we've tested that and it's not under there. just going to have a feel about here. Yeah, okay. So there's something underneath there. Something underneath the sticker. I can feel it's like a screw or just there's a lump under there. So I'm going to peel this off. Okay, so yeah, it's not a screw hole. Okay. So what I'm going to try and do, because it's led me down the wrong path, is I'm going to stick that back on. There we go. Not underneath there. So I would assume the best way of doing this is to try and open it all the way around here with some guitar picks. Because it looks like that's how it's attached. You can see it's just got a seam all the way around. So I'm going to get my tools and we're going to have a go. So I'm just using the plastic guitar pick here. Oh, and this is a lot easier than anticipated. So that's coming apart quite nicely, as you can see there. I'm just going to keep going around here as well, doing the same thing. Wow, okay, yeah, this is coming apart a lot easier than first anticipated. So I'm just going to I'm just going to pull that up gently because I don't want to catch any ribbon cables. Oh, okay, here we go. So this is the inside of a Stream Deck Plus, if you've never seen one before. So we're going to have a look at, first of all, we're going to have a look at these connections here to see if it's an issue with the ribbon. Now, if the ribbon is slightly damaged or if it's not connected right, then it could be causing some of the issues with the RGB. And that's what we're going to do first, is I'm going to look at those and see if that's the issue. We have got 4 screws here holding the actual buttons in place. So there's no issue with these buttons, so I shouldn't need to do anything with those. This unit itself here, it just clips on. I don't know if you can see this. This is like almost like a photo frame. And the back of a photo frame, that's how they're sort of hooked in. So I'm going to bend those back as best I can. You can do this just with your hands. It's not actually too hard to maneuver these. So there we go. Okay, so that's all those out the way. Now there is a connection here which I want to be really careful not to touch or move, because it looks like it's connecting it to the board at the bottom where all the turning knobs are. So I'm just looking for anything that's, you know, if there's a connection that's not fitting, or if there's a loose wire for the ribbon, and it all seems firmly in. But we don't know until obviously we've taken this board out if there's, you know, any issues that are pertaining on the other side of the board. But yeah, looking at it, it looks fine. So, do you know, thinking about it, I might actually need to take off these bottom turning knobs just so I can get a little bit better access to the back of the board. So these just pull off. I've seen online actually you can customize these with different colors. If I fix it, I'm definitely going to be doing that. So they just pull out, and I'm just going to get them all aligned on one side so they come out nice and smoothly. Okay, so let's take these screws off the bottom. Do you know, this has actually lured me into a false sense of security that this is going to be quite an easy job. Okay, so yeah, so this is just a nice easy bit, just taking off the screws. Just one by one. Okay, so that is the screws out. I'm going to try and pry this thing out as one whole piece before disconnecting it. So there's just one more piece there that needs bending back. Okay, so yeah, I couldn't find, obviously I've already said, I couldn't find someone with a video replacing this thing. So I don't actually know the proper way of removing this out of here. But yeah, we're going to give it a good shot. So I'm just making sure none of those are going to snap on the circuit board there. And we're getting a bit of movement, but it does seem like it's stuck. Let's have a look. It just seems like it's stuck a little bit in the middle. So let's give that a pull. Okay, yeah, definitely. Something it's not liking something in the middle. Is it stuck? Ah, okay, so it looks like the cable on the other side might be the blocker here. So I'm just going to unclip this, if I can. Doesn't seem to want to come out there. So I tell you what, while I'm here, while I've messed about with the cables, I'm going to plug this back in and just see if wiggling those ribbons has made a difference. I'm not expecting miracles here, guys. I'm not assuming this is going to work, but yeah, as expected. Obviously, we're still getting those issues, so big fat no to that. But at least we can tick that off. We've tested those connections and they've not worked. So I'm going to unplug this again, and I need to figure out a way of getting rid of this ribbon cable, or opening up this ribbon cable, because it's definitely what's stopping this from coming out. Okay, so I've been a bit of an idiot with this. I've been trying to pull these out when I've actually just sent a picture of this PCB to ChatGPT, who's told me to just flip the black bit up. So it's as simple as that. They just clip up and off, and it's the same on the touch sensor cables as well. So a bit of a faux pas on my part, but we're learning. So now I've done that, this in theory should come loose. There we go. Okay. So yeah, the ribbon is actually connected directly to the board here, and obviously I'm not sure if this is just me pulling on it, but it does look a little bit... I'm not 100% sure if that cable looks right. I'll definitely have to have a look at that, but I'll check that later. So let's take a look at the actual unit outside of the Stream Deck Plus. So you've got your connections where your buttons are below, your turning knobs, and that's the technical term for that. And then you've got your touch screen, your LCD screen, which is sort of placed at the top there. And my initial thoughts were that this ribbon was damaged, but as you can see, this actually looks pretty clean. Yeah, there's no markings on there or anything, but I need to take all of these out. So this just pulls up. So you just click that up and then the ribbon comes out. So unlike the other ones, it just pushes up. So I'm just looking at all these ribbons again, just making sure there's no breaks in them, that they're getting a solid connection when they are actually plugged in, and they all look okay. Right, okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to reattach these cables. I'm going to be as gentle as possible when I'm reattaching these, because like I said, these look absolutely fine. But I just want to make sure that these are fitted correctly. They are very fragile, these cables, so you've got to be really careful with those. Interestingly, when I was looking at this issue, I didn't see any other devices that had the same issue for the Stream Deck Plus. You know, if someone else has gone through this and had an issue with their screen, hopefully they've managed to RMA it, but obviously, because this is from an auction site, I can't RMA this. I did try, but Elgato told me no, which is fair enough. So now I've got this circuit board out anyway. I'm going to try and get this plugged in. So I want to be able to see that screen outside of the connection and just see if I can notice anything else going on here. And I want to make sure that I've not missed anything. So I'm just going to pop this back in. And if you can see, I don't know if you can see on here, but there's actually, that cable slots through. There's a really thin gap between the two boards, and that just slots through. Okay, right, so make sure that that tab is now flapped up so that you can pop this back in like so. So, okay, once this is in, it's quite fiddly because it pops out again. There we go, and put that back down. So all the ribbon cables are back in. They're back connected. So I'm going to try and plug this in again. I want to get a better view of if anything I've done has worked. And I know I've just been fiddling about with the cables, but I wanted to make sure it's checked. So yeah, as expected, doesn't look like the ribbon cables have any issues. I can't see it looks any better or worse. It looks exactly the same, if I'm honest. So we've still got that flickering issue on here. So removing the cables to check didn't work. Didn't actually fix anything. So I think I'm going to have to go a little bit deeper into this, guys. Let's take that back out. Okay, let's disconnect these cables again. So what I'm going to try and do here is remove this back plate that's attached to the actual LCD screen, which looks like a very tricky and thankless task, if I'm honest. It looks like some tags are behind here as well, similar to the picture frame tags that we saw earlier on. Yeah, so there's two on, it looks like there's two on each side here. Yeah, don't know if you can see this, but those tags are basically holding this in. And they're quite hard to get to. So obviously I'm using a metal, this is not a sharp metal scalpel, by the way, this is just a prying tool. So I'm just pulling these out. I think if I use plastic it would 100% snap on here, but I've been really careful not to touch that PCB. I'm going to disconnect the bottom buttons because I know they're working, so I don't need them in my way and they can just disconnect there. So that's not giving me any issues. And I'm going to keep trying to try and break this tape that's just keeping it together. So I probably should have done the right thing here and peeled it back and then reattached it, but I'm so eager to get into this thing. So let's try and pull this. Ah, okay, here we go. Right, so that's released. Okay, which gives us a little bit more room and some more connections to test. Now this connection looks like the LCD screen. So I'm just going to use a plastic prier to just pick up this yellow tape here. Obviously being careful not to scratch anything. Okay. It looks like the exact same connector from the other side where it just flips up. Let's give that a test. Yes. Okay. Yeah, so it just lifts up and pops out. That's good. So that's the top layer of the Stream Deck Plus. We're getting deeper into this. And I imagine this is the screen. Obviously here, this is the connection for the screen. So there's some more connections just holding this screen inside this metal housing. And again, picture frame tabs. I don't know the technical term for that, but picture frame tabs. So you can see as well, like this is the, on top of the screen, they have this touch, this looks like a touch sensor. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to have a look, because they look like separate parts, is I'm going to have a look at this part number here and see if I can find a replacement screen. Because something tells me that that's the part that's failing. Well, sorry, not something tells me, the fact that the screen doesn't work is telling me that this screen is failing. And it just looks like, if I'm completely honest, the touchscreen pad sits on top of an LCD screen, which should, in theory, be quite easy to replace. Because they've just added this template to it with touch sensors. So I don't think it's anything special. So yeah, that just peels off and you can see those sensors for the touchscreen elements there. So I'm just going to stick that back down and I'm going to go and have a look at these parts. I'm looking up this part number on the back of the screen to see if I can find this exact part. Okay, so it looks like we've actually found the screen. Holy, look at this. So let's just look at this on AliExpress. I know it's AliExpress, so you have to take it with a pinch of salt, but that is the screen. The exact screen that we need. It's a 4.3 inch TFT LCD screen. So here I am a week later, just arrived in the post, fresh from eBay. So I ordered two of these screens. One of them was from eBay and one of them was from AliExpress. And no surprise that the eBay one arrived first. So let's get into this and see if this screen matches the
screen that we pulled out of the Stream Deck Plus.
So, correction there, this was actually the AliExpress one, would you believe? So the hope is that this screen has a 40-pin connector like it said on the actual AliExpress listing, and it's the same size, or it should be the same size, casing. So we're going to unbox this and see if we've got ourselves a bargain here, because this was £1.15, so I'm not actually holding out any hope on this one. But let's just see what AliExpress delivers, because I've heard some horror stories here. Okay, so let's open this up without damaging the screen. Okay, then I'm going to roll this out. Okay, yeah, I can already see whatever it is I've ordered has arrived wrong. It's completely different. I mean, the screen is, I don't know if you can see this, the screen is actually see-through. So this is nothing like what I ordered. But we have a bit of a saving grace, because on the same day my eBay screen also arrived, and I've got a bit more hope for this because you can normally trust eBay a little bit more than AliExpress. But I'm guessing these both came from China. So let's unbox this and see what's happening. Let's just cut through that. Okay, so this looks right. It's got the same connections. This is a 40-pin connector, which is what I was expecting. But it does look very similar. Okay, it looks a bit smaller, if I'm honest. Let me just hold these up, put these next to each other. Yeah, it's a lot smaller than the other screen. That is a shame. And I know the size difference is going to make a difference. Nothing's been easy with this fix so far, so I know that this isn't going to fit. I'll just take off the touch sensor so you can see size-wise how far this is off, and you can see this touch screen obviously needs to be placed against something for it to actually work. And let me just hold this up. Okay, yeah, I've got it on. Let me just hold this up and show you the size difference. That's annoying, but I have another screen to test. I don't want to put this down as a massive waste. This was only £8 for this screen. So because it's got the same connector, I want to see if I put this on and if the pixels and everything run okay with this. Because if they do, then it shows that it is the screen. So it's a bit of a test in that sense. Okay. Interesting. So this actually turns on. Obviously it's the wrong pixel size. Expected that. But there's no flickering. So be really careful to hold this up. There's no flickering on the screen. There's a little bit of artifacts just on those icons, but that could be to do with the scaling of the actual icons. But the colours coming through, and there's no flickering, so which tells me that it is 100% an issue with the screen. I'm just going to bring that closer so you can see that. This is from PiHut. They do Raspberry Pi parts, and I've had a few Raspberry Pis from them in the past, and I saw this screen which seemed to match the size and everything. Everything seemed perfect. I even measured the pixel size on the screen to make sure that this one was going to match. So this is the last ditch attempt to get this to work. So as you can see, it looks like it's going to fit. It's the same size. It's got the same 40-pin connector. It has like a slightly larger bottom part and a smaller top part, which is what the Stream Deck one does. So I'm going to take this apart, and I'm going to speed this up because I know you've seen me take this apart loads of times now. Interesting note, you don't have to take off the stand, which I had been doing for a while, so that's 2 less screws to undo. So I'm just going to go ahead, take all this apart, and hope and pray that this thing actually works. I've got quite good at taking this thing apart right now. I think I know this better than my own backhand after all these different teardowns. So I'm just going to move that to one side. Just checking that I've got all those cables out. There we go. So this screen, from doing my research, has a higher refresh rate to the actual Stream Deck one. So if this does work, then we're looking at higher quality screen on this thing. So let's just see if we can get this plugged in. We're going to do a test again. They should be roughly the same size, as you can see there. Yeah, so it looks like this is more of a match than the one from eBay. So let's just get that plugged in the right way. There we go, with a push down flap. And I'm going to test it. I'm absolutely desperate to test this thing. Okay, moment of truth, guys. Can I fix the Stream Deck Plus? Look at that. It actually works. It actually works. Honestly, I believe, right, that I'm the only person to have fixed this thing. And if you do find someone else that's fixed this, please do drop them in the comments. But yeah, I hope this is worth a subscribe, guys. I've managed to fix the Stream Deck Plus. So what I'm going to do now is, because I know that the screen, so I've gone for a non-touch screen. So excited, honestly. Absolutely buzzing. So because I've gone for the non-touch screen version of this screen, so I have worked out that there is no touch functionality on the actual screen. It's all through touchpads and sensors that are attached to the screen. So the screen that I actually got was about £29. So it was a lot more expensive than what I'd already spent on the other two screens. So I did hold a bit of hope that this was going to work. Here we go, sad moment. Taking off the temporary fix and moving that to one side. Hey, it served its purpose. It served its purpose. So what I'm going to do now is take this touch digitizer. Like I said, there's no touchscreen functionality on the screen. So that's just going to come off, and then I'm going to reapply it once I've taken this film off the new screen. Being super careful, because I know apparently these screens are very temperamental. Or at least the ones that you get from Elgato are. So you just match up the corners and look at that perfect fit. Honestly, absolutely buzzing. I've managed to get this to work. Okay, so old screen and new screen comparison. Then we've got obviously the 40-pin connector. These things both require a chip. Okay, so there's a chip on the board. You can just see it there underneath the 40-pin connector. And that chip is what drives the refresh rate. It's what makes sure the pixels don't go dead. And you need to have that for this screen to work. So obviously, with it already having the chip, it doesn't matter what screen you have on it as long as it's got that chip to power it. So I'm going to speed this up again for you guys and just talk through putting this back on. So again, becoming quite good at taking this apart. It's just those picture frame sort of clips that keep it in. It's super easy, to be fair. I've opened and fiddled about with worse PCBs. So I'm going to turn that on and make sure they all marry up. Yep. So just testing the functionality as well. So I had a few issues with the touchscreen not working, and it was that one of the ribbon cables. So what I had to do is actually just get some tape and just put that down. But there you go. As you can see, just getting the dials on here. All the functionality still works. You've got your different dials. We knew the dials worked anyway. But the one thing I did notice with this is the actual colour on the screen is a lot brighter than my other Stream Deck. I don't know if that's, look how happy I am. I don't know if that's a common thing with the Stream Deck Plus having a higher quality, screen, but it looks so vivid. And I'll get into a few videos after this. I'll put some videos on this that show how vivid the colours are in comparison to the Stream Deck XL. But yeah, having those two married up and being able to change profiles on one to the other is just absolutely brilliant. So here we go then. Here's a close-up. Just look at the colours. They are so much more of it. It doesn't do it justice, honestly. The colours are, if I just zoom in a bit here and get it in focus, the colours are so bright. The animation works, everything still works on it. So absolutely bagged a winner here, guys. If you watch this video, I really appreciate it. And if you didn't see the video of me unboxing all this high-end auction gear for cheap, then please go and watch that. That'll be popping up soon. So the overall price and spend on this was £55 from auction, plus £1.50 at AliExpress, plus £8 at eBay, and then £29 at PiHut, which brings the total to under £100. All that a bargain. I'll see you in the next video, guys.